Have you ever felt like the whole world is demanding more from you than you can give? As if your mind is always racing, but your heart is getting more and more tired. Waking up without motivation, working on autopilot, forcing smiles while everything inside feels like chaos. This mental exhaustion isn't weakness, it's a sign that something needs to change before your soul burns out. And maybe today, you'll find here the spark you've been searching for. What if I told you there's a quiet, ancient and powerful path to regain your energy without depending on anyone? A secret kept by the Stoics, those who faced wars, losses and unimaginable pressure, yet never let it consume them. Maybe you've been trying to control everything around you, and that's exactly what's draining your strength. Because sometimes real freedom doesn't come from what we control, but from what we decide to release. And that's what we'll talk about now. If this message found you today, it may be that your mind is asking for help, not with screams but with silence. And if you made it this far, maybe this is what you needed to hear, that there is a way to restore your clarity, protect your peace, and breathe deeply again without needing anyone else to change. So if this resonates with your heart, subscribe to this channel now. Here you'll find what no one ever taught you: practical wisdom for a light life, with clean energy and a peaceful mind. Have you noticed how we try to control absolutely everything? People's reactions, work results, what others think, even things that haven't happened yet. This constant effort to dominate the uncontrollable is like running on a treadmill. You burn energy, but don't move forward. The problem is, the more we try to gain total control, the more drained and frustrated we feel. And that's when we start losing mental energy without even noticing it. Marcus Aurelius once said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." That phrase holds a powerful antidote to anxiety, recognizing your limits. When you try to control what doesn't depend on you, you're fighting a losing battle. Every thought of pressure, every attempt to predict the unpredictable becomes an arrow against your peace. The first Stoic step is simple: recognize what's not yours to carry. Think about this. You can control your choices, but not how others feel about you. You can give your best effort, but you can't guarantee you'll be appreciated. You can care for yourself, but you can't stop the world from having bad days. Stoic philosophy teaches us that real power lies in focusing on what's ours, our thoughts, our actions, our responses, and releasing the rest. That's not giving up. It's liberation. It's removing the weight from your soul and breathing freely again. Of course, this takes practice. It's not easy to let go of control when we've been taught that control equals success. But the truth is the opposite. Those who release are the ones who grow stronger. When you accept that life comes with cycles, surprises, and storms, you begin saving energy for what truly matters. That makes you calmer, more present, more conscious. And that's the foundation of solid mental energy, using your strength with wisdom. Seneca said, "Nothing gives a person so much advantage over another as to remain always cool and unruffled." But you can only achieve that balance when you stop wasting energy trying to manipulate what's out of your hands. Real Stoic discipline isn't about rigidity, it's about smart choices, choosing where to place your attention, your focus, your peace. That's when your mind starts to regenerate, like a fountain flowing again after years of drought. Comment below, "I release what I cannot control." That phrase alone is already an act of courage and freedom. Writing it is like declaring to the universe and to yourself that you're ready to live lighter. And now that you understand how control wears you down, next we're going to explore how silence can become your most powerful source of strength. Have you noticed how external noise feeds internal chaos? The pressure to respond instantly, to have an opinion about everything, to constantly justify yourself. It's exhausting. Today, silence has become almost a luxury, but the wise saw it as discipline. For the Stoics, silence wasn't the absence of voice, it was the presence of self-control. It's in silence that thought is organized, the soul is cleansed, and energy begins to flow with clarity again. Epictetus taught, "If someone speaks ill of you and it's true, correct yourself. If it's false, ignore it." But to have that calm, you need silence. It's where you filter what's truly an attack and what's just noise. While everyone reacts impulsively, the Stoic observes, breathes, and chooses their response, or decides it's not worth responding at all. This silent choice is one of the purest forms of personal power, because those who master silence master themselves. In practice, this means no longer over-explaining, no longer justifying everything, no longer proving your worth to those who don't want to see it. Silence is the armor that protects your peace. When you choose not to react, you conserve energy. Energy that would otherwise be wasted in empty conflicts, meaningless opinions, or drama that doesn't belong to you. The wise don't hide. They choose when, how, and if it's even worth speaking. And more often than not, silence speaks louder. But beware, true silence is not the silence of avoidance. It's the silence of presence. It's not about ignoring, but about listening more. Listening to your own thoughts before they escape your mouth. Listening to the environment, noticing where there's wisdom and where there's just noise disguised as importance. This active silence pulls you away from confusion and brings you closer to clarity. It restores your energy before you even realize it. Seneca said, "Speak only when your words are better than silence." Reflect on that. How many times have you drained yourself by speaking too soon, by defending yourself for no reason, by replying to what didn't deserve a response? The wisdom of silence is a daily choice, and each time you make it, you reconnect with your essence. It's as if your mind turns off the world's noise and starts listening to your own truth again. Comment below. I choose the silence that strengthens me. Writing this is a declaration that you're making space for your mind to breathe and your energy to renew. Now that you understand the power of silence, let's explore why learning to accept loss is one of the greatest gains of Stoic philosophy. Loss hurts, whether it's a relationship, a friendship, an opportunity, or a chapter of life you weren't ready to close. The first instinct is to resist, to fight, to try to save it at all costs. But the more you hold on to what's already leaving, the more your energy slips away. The hard and yet liberating truth is that sometimes accepting loss is the only path to finding yourself again. Epictetus said, "Don't seek for things to happen the way you want them to. Rather wish that what happens happen the way it happens, then you will be happy." This isn't a philosophy of resignation, it's one of realism. The mind burns itself out trying to change the past, reverse someone else's decisions, or stop a cycle that's already ended. But the Stoic understands. What leaves makes room for what's meant to be, and there is no rebirth without some kind of symbolic death. Acceptance isn't giving up. It's allowing your energy to stop feeding what no longer nourishes you. Picture a plant with dry roots. You can keep watering it endlessly, or you can plant something new. When you accept that certain things are gone, you don't lose everything. You reclaim what matters most, your presence, your peace, your inner strength. And that's when you discover the power of walking lighter, without the weight of what's no longer yours. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Loss is nothing else but change, and change is nature's delight. Resistance to change creates pain. Conscious acceptance brings freedom." When you look at a loss through the lens of wisdom, you begin to see what it taught you, what it forced you to face, how much it made you grow. And that perspective transforms pain into fertile ground. That's where Stoic strength blooms, in what remains after what left. Most people try to restore their energy by clinging to what's gone, but the secret is the opposite. Let go to regenerate. Understand that not every loss is failure. Sometimes it's protection, redirection, or preparation for something greater. When you accept, you begin to heal. When you resist, you poison yourself. And when you finally let go, what's truly meant for you finds its way back. Comment below. I accept what I cannot change and move on lighter. This is a statement of quiet strength, and repeating it is like sweeping your soul clean. Now that you understand the value of accepting loss, let's explore how simplifying your life can restore your energy even faster. Have you ever felt mentally overloaded, even when you weren't doing that much? That's because it's not just the number of tasks that exhaust you, it's the excess of thoughts, decisions, distractions, and self-imposed obligations. The truth is, living today requires filtering. Too much complexity confuses, consumes, and paralyzes. That's why simplifying isn't a luxury, it's an emotional survival strategy. Seneca said, "It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more. That is poor." This wisdom applies to everything: commitments, goals, relationships, even thoughts. The mind finds rest when life finds focus. When you learn to say no to what drains you, you create space for what nourishes you. The Stoic lives with less, but feels more, because he understands that depth only grows where space exists. To simplify is an act of courage. It means letting go of the excess that creates the illusion of control, but in practice only generates anxiety. It means stopping the endless search for validation, the need to please everyone, the pressure to keep everything in order all the time. The simpler your life, the lighter your spirit, and the lighter you feel, the more energy you recover. Complexity robs, clarity restores. Think about your routines. How much do you do out of fear of missing something? How many people do you hold on to out of fear of seeming selfish? How many tasks do you accept out of fear of disappointing others? Stoicism teaches you to act with purpose, not out of impulse. Life doesn't need to be filled to the brim. Sometimes what you're missing isn't one more task, but a pause, a blank space to breathe. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Stop debating what a good man should be. Just be one." Stoic action is objective, clear, and essential. And when you apply that to your daily life, your mind begins to breathe again. Fewer notifications, fewer promises, less rush, more focus, more peace, more energy. Simplifying is a form of healing, like tidying up the house of your soul after a long storm. Comment below, "I choose the essential." Declare that you are ready to live with less weight and more purpose. Now that you've understood how simplicity renews your mind, let's explore why stopping the habit of comparison is a turning point for your emotional energy. Have you noticed how drained you feel after spending time on social media? Even without meaning to, you start comparing yourself to lives that seem better, more beautiful, more fulfilled. Comparison is one of the most silent forms of mental self-destruction because it's never based on truth, but on illusion. And every time you measure yourself by something external, you drift further from who you truly are. Epictetus taught, "Don't seek to be better than others, but better than your previous self." That is the North Star of Stoicism. Comparison is pointless because it's based on unfair premises. You see the behind the scenes of your life and compare it to someone else's highlight reel. It steals your energy, your self-esteem, your presence, and worst of all, it disconnects you from your own path. Because those who look too much to the side trip over what's right in front of them. A mind that lives in comparison never rests. It's always trying to prove something, to chase after, to impress, to explain. This creates a toxic cycle of self-sabotage, because even if you achieve something, there will always be someone who seems one step ahead. And if you don't break this pattern, you'll spend your life chasing a goal that was never yours. The Stoic breaks this cycle with clarity. He lives his own journey. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts. And when your thoughts are contaminated by comparison, your life becomes an exhausting race." The healing begins when you choose to stop. Stop looking outside for approval. Stop measuring your peace by someone else's ruler. Stop punishing yourself for not being what others expected of you. You want to reclaim your energy. Then compare yourself only to who you were yesterday and no one else. That is enough, because that's where real growth lives. You don't need to be faster, richer, more attractive. You need to be more conscious, more grounded, more aligned with who you are. And that doesn't come from competition, but from connection, with what you feel, with what you believe, with who you're becoming. Comment below, "I am my only reference." Write this as a daily reminder that your peace begins when you return to yourself. Now that you understand how comparison drains your energy, let's discover how learning to say no can actually save your mind. How many times have you said yes when inside you were screaming no? How often have you committed to something out of guilt, fear of disappointing, or simply not knowing how to set boundaries? This seemingly innocent habit is one of the biggest thieves of emotional energy. Because every time you betray yourself to please others, a part of you grows weaker. and no one can survive long while giving more than they have. Seneca said, "He who is enslaved by the expectations of others is a slave by choice." Powerful, isn't it? But true. Saying no is not selfish, it's self-care. The Stoic knows that by protecting his energy, he also protects his clarity, peace, and presence. It's impossible to live with purpose if your calendar is filled with commitments that don't reflect your heart. And it's impossible to feel whole when you're constantly breaking yourself into pieces. Learning to say no is like installing a filter in your life. Not everything urgent is important. Not every offer is worth your peace. Not every person deserves access to the space where you're trying to heal. Saying no doesn't close doors. It filters what gets in. And that is one of the greatest signs of emotional wisdom. Knowing that a boundary doesn't push people away, it protects what matters. Epictetus reminds us, if you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid. That's what happens when you start saying no. You'll be misunderstood, questioned, maybe even rejected, but you'll also be free. Free to sleep in peace, to live by your values, to reclaim control of your own mind. This quiet kind of freedom is worth more than any outside approval. In practice, start small. Decline what exhausts you. Reevaluate what you're holding on to just out of habit. Ask yourself if that yes is really worth the sacrifice. Mental energy is like a garden. If you plant where there's no fertile soil, everything dies. But if you water what truly matters, your mind blossoms. Saying no is watering yourself. It's restoring what life and others have tried to take from you. Comment below. I give myself permission to say no. Saying this is already a step toward freedom. Now that you understand the power of healthy boundaries, let's move to the next point. How practicing presence can restore your mental energy in just minutes. How many times have you caught yourself reliving something that already passed or worrying about something that hasn't even happened yet? This escape from the present is one of the biggest causes of mental exhaustion. The past demands, the future frightens, and the now is ignored. But it's only in the present that the mind reorganizes. Presence is the only place where energy is restored, and returning to it is like coming home after being lost in the world. Marcus Aurelius said, "Your life is what your thoughts make it." And where do your thoughts live? If they dwell in the past, you relive pain. If they run toward the future, you feed fear. But if they stay in the present, you find clarity. The Stoic trains his mind to return to the now every time it wanders, because it's in the present that you breathe, feel, and choose. It's where life actually happens. You don't need complex techniques. Just start by observing, where am I now? What am I feeling? What can I do with what I have? These simple questions reconnect you to reality. The now doesn't ask you to solve everything. It simply asks for your presence. And when you answer that request, something powerful happens. The mental weight lessens, anxiety dissolves, and your energy begins to return. Practicing presence takes training, like a muscle that's been neglected. But the more you use it, the more it rewards you. Try eating in silence, walking without your phone, taking a deep breath before replying. These small gestures reteach your body to exist in real time, and in that real time, your energy replenishes. The mind no longer wastes strength predicting what doesn't exist. It begins to live what does. Epictetus teaches us, it's not things that disturb us, but our interpretation of them. And distorted interpretation is born when we're disconnected from the present. When you return to the now, you see more clearly, you decide more wisely, you live more lightly. Presence is the gateway to inner peace, and there's no stronger energy than that which comes from a mind fully grounded in the moment. Comment below, I choose to be present. This phrase is more than a mantra. It's a call to return to your center. Now that you understand the power of being here and now, let's explore how cultivating a silent purpose can protect your energy from everything that's empty and superficial. Have you ever noticed how the most centered people are the ones who don't constantly explain their steps? They seem calm, steady, as if they carry something sacred within. That is silent purpose. It's not a loud goal or a flashy achievement. It's an inner force that guides, sustains, and protects. And when you have that, Your energy no longer depends on praise, validation, or the noise of the world. Marcus Aurelius said, "Stop drifting. Be like the rock against which the waves break. It stands firm." That's what a clear purpose does. It anchors you. In chaos, you don't lose yourself. In doubt, you don't sabotage yourself. Amid the external voices, you keep listening to the only one that truly matters, your own. And that silent focus saves an immense amount of energy that was once wasted trying to prove yourself. Having a purpose doesn't mean having everything figured out. It means knowing what is worth your effort. It can be something simple, protecting your peace, growing emotionally, helping those you love, living with integrity. What matters is that it makes sense to you, not to the world. When that inner flame is lit, external noise loses its power. And that's when you realize that true strength is quiet. Stoicism teaches us that living with purpose means choosing your direction consciously, even if no one understands it. Seneca wrote, "Life without a purpose is like a ship without a rudder, and a ship without a rudder goes nowhere. It just drifts, wearing itself out with every wave. When you define your purpose, you reclaim the rudder." And that alone is already an act of deep mental healing. Mental energy doesn't need grand promises. It needs meaning. When you wake up knowing why you're living that day, problems shrink. You stop reacting to everything and start responding with intention. This focus isn't loud, it's cultivated, and the more you stay connected to it, the more immune you become to the world's draining noise. Now that you've walked this path, you may have realized that restoring your mental energy doesn't require miracle formulas. It requires ancient wisdom applied with presence. Stoicism isn't just a collection of beautiful quotes. It's a way of life, a way of breathing deeply when everything feels urgent, of protecting your peace when the world screams for your attention, of choosing silence, simplicity, and the essential. When you live this, your mind becomes your ally again, and your life regains direction, not just movement. So I ask you, what small change could you make today that would give you more energy without depending on anyone else? Maybe it's letting go of control, saying no, or just being truly present in your next conversation. Transformation begins in the details, in the choice of a more conscious attitude, and each time you act with clarity instead of reactivity, you are restoring your energy from the inside out. If this message helped you, if something here touched your mind or your heart, subscribe to the channel now. Here you'll find more than videos. You'll find tools to build a life of inner strength, emotional clarity, and real peace. And always remember, you don't need the world to feel good. You just need to feel whole within. And if this helped you today, imagine what's coming next.